good? You connect?
Yeah.
Check if we have the live going. Yep, it says it is. Here we go. Hello everybody, welcome on board here for race 11 of the XRS season, here for season 21, the XRX Cup Series, tonight at Hockenheim Ring. XRS for the first time is bringing the Cup cars to this track. Happy New Year to everyone. I know it's a belated New Year. Last week we ran the first official race of 2023, but I was unable to be in attendance, and AK, you were able to make that race, so once again, thank you for being able to fill in for that spot in my absence. Just give me a little rundown of what happened last week, if you don't mind.
Yeah, obviously it was, what we saw was a lot of being a main because obviously it is a shorter track compared to what we usually go to. So it was a very action-filled race, which saw I don't know if we should say a surprise winner, but somebody who kept pace really well last week was Tyson. We've been seeing him get progressively faster, but last week he got his first race win of the season. Over Vanquish, he had to battle Vanquish fairly hard near the end of that, along with MVP. So your top three were Tyson, Vanquish, and MVP in that order.
Yeah, I mean, recently, Tython, we've seen him do well, perform well. He's gotten faster and faster every week, it almost feels like. So, good on him for finally getting a victory. And that's going to help him come here time for the playoffs that will be approaching sooner than you think for a lot of drivers. Currently, the playoff point standings, if we look, MVP leads the charge with 386 regular season points and 15 playoff points. Kart Racer makes his way to second in the standings at 366. Coulter in third at 332. Tython, after getting that win last week, bumps himself up to 324 in fourth. D-Dog sitting in fifth at 313. Vanquish at 308 in sixth. And then Panda at 304. And then finally rounding out the top eight, JW Reno with 295. But only 3-point separation between Reno and Oracle. Oracle being the ninth driver at 292. So it's going to be getting closer and closer. The closer and closer in the standings, the closer and closer we get to the final race. And last season, it could be anything from what we saw. It could be as much as a 5-point separation to get in, to as much as a 1-point separation for the cutoff. There you see the grid order on your screen, but we will go over it again. Vanquish on pole for tonight's race with MVP alongside with him. Tython, D-Dog making up the second row, row 3, Oracle and Jankum. Then Coulter and Kart. Once again, they tend to be next to each other in qualifying. In 9th and 10th, we have Girl Next Door and Off-Road Hype. 11th and 12th is Edwards and RZX Cam. 13th, 14th is FME Sports and Goosey. Back in the 15th, 16th, we have Reno and Mayhem. And then finally, the final row being Panda and Hawk. Very interesting track for tonight. There's 13 turns on this circuit, and Hockenheim Ring, the first thing I think of is Formula 1 for Hockenheim Ring, but not the NASCAR Cup cars. So, AK, based off of what we've seen, and it looks like there was a mistake made in the lobby, which is why cars are backing out here. So, small little technical error here.
The car not have the correct tune on. So
okay.
Panda, who was already in the back, so he only goes down one more position.
Yep. So we will let race control know that we're ready to go up here in the booth. that they don't need to wait at the start for a usual procedure once they get this restarted. By the way, still, AK, like I was saying, Hockenheim ring, I don't typically think about the NASCAR Cup Series at Hockenheim. I think of Formula One. So, with that being said, is there any surprises that we could see tonight, considering NASCAR doesn't really have a history at this track?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the F1 cars are much, much more aerodynamic than any NASCAR has ever been or will be.
Hmm.
So, obviously throttle control will be a big factor here. So those that can master the throttle control and the smooth turning are the guys that are going to capitalize here. So we could definitely see a couple surprises in the field. Obviously, road course ringers like Vanquish, Tython. Those guys are going to be some guys that are capitalized that usually capitalize from road course to road course. But obviously, Hawk's still in the hunt and still very much overdue for a win. He could be another guy that could try and capitalize tonight. There are a couple guys here tonight that I think could either surprise us or go for the win tonight.
Obviously, with the road course races and how they've gone this year, you really can't bet against Vanquish and MVP for sure. Tython last week just getting the win at Top Gear. Top Gear, not really considered a road course, though. Not really considered an oval. It's one of those in-between tracks that XRS is going to this season, which there's still, I believe, one or two more on the schedule because we still have the Road America mini circuit that we're going to be heading to. That should be interesting because of the high speed and also the dive bombing opportunities that you really get at that track. So, still a lot more excitement on the rest of the XRS schedule, and hopefully you and everyone else watching will be able to join us when we get there. So, here tonight, when the drivers load in, we will go through the track a little bit one by one, but an overview of the track. I feel like this track just gets it gets more condensed, but you also get more passing opportunities the more you run in the lap. And what I mean by that is that you had a wide sweeping turn 1 that you are allowed to use all runoff at this track. You have wide sweeping turn 1, then you go down to a tighter turn 2, but then you have that long straightaway all the way into turn 4, leading into the hairpin turn 5, and should be a good passing opportunity there as well. Then you get into the section that kind of condenses down into the track, Sector 2, and then finally you have the really tight section where there's barely any runoff, being the stadium portion of the track, and that is a really exciting portion. So Hockenheim can be filled with a world of wonder, and we will find out tonight who's going to be able to go around this track with ease and make sure that they can come out on top. Now we are able to load into the lobby. Now, just as we were talking about here, as we see Vanquish MVP roll through, turn 1, all this runoff that you see to the driver's left of all these guys, they are allowed to use. And them using that runoff should give them a huge advantage, carry a lot more speed than they should be able to, all the way down at the turn 2 area. That is a tighter corner than you think, and automatically you have that fast left-hander in turn 3. If you don't get a good exit out of these corners, you will have a struggle, because down this long straightaway, plenty of drafting, high speed, and passing opportunities all the way when you get down to the hairpin. So AK, with this kind of racing that starts fast, gets slow, and then goes immediately fast again, because the front straightaway itself, it's a pretty fast straightaway on this track, what can we expect drivers to do? Are we going to see them play a little bit more conservative, a little bit more aggressive? What do you think is the play for tonight, considering all factors, pit strategy and driving style?
Yeah, obviously with it being a road course, fuel is out of the question. It's your tires that you're going to want to worry about. And I think we'll see a little bit of mix of everything. We'll see some guys play it cautious, and we'll see some guys play it a little more risky with their fuel strategies, try and run as far as I can. But obviously with this track being such a diverse sort of thing between technical turns, these long straight turns, fast turns. We have a little bit of everything for everyone. So the person that's going to capitalize tonight will be the person that can be the master of this entire track, not just certain sections like we'll see most of the field be able to do. The person that can master the technical, the fast, the slow, and every turn in between, that's going to be who our winner will be tonight.
All right. Should be a lot of questions, but hopefully this race can answer a bunch of them on what are we going to expect here for NASCAR at Hockenheim. Cars making their way around the final corner and on the front straightaway. Race 11 is underway. Green flag waves. MVP taking advantage right away on that inside. Going to be able to make a small crossover on Vanquish for the lead.
Pretty clean through that first corner. A lot better than what I was expecting with it being a very fast to a very slow corner. So really well done by all the drivers.
D-Dog ran a little bit wide, lost a little bit of momentum. He was side by side with Vanquish. Now he needs to deal with Tython, who started this race third. He's working his way back up to that top three. Going to be right with D-Dog in the hairpin.
Car around at SSR. He went around a little bit ago. It looks like he's parking it, at least for the time being.
Right along here with second place, the pole sitter Vanquish. MVP automatically took advantage of the dive bomb heading into turn one. Vanquish, he did elect to go driver's left on the start, and so that gave MVP prime position to take over the lead on the start. Now, as they approach the tight section of the track, will any moves be made, or is everything going to remain calm? And now we have a loading screen. I don't know if you have that too, AK.
Yeah, I believe that would be SSR as he is starting.
Yep, SSR start and park. And he will still receive points, because you do receive points just for starting the event. So, unfortunate for SSR. Not able to do much more in this event. Now, MVP leads lap 1. And he has grown a little bit of a distance on Vanquish. Let's go all the way back to Jankum, a returning driver, who's currently in 6th.
Yeah, Jacob, when he's here, he usually puts on a fairly strong performance at almost every track. Obviously, he's more well known for sort of Daytona, sort of like Reno. But he is a pretty good driver all around, so I'm expecting at least a fairly decent performance from him tonight, if not a top 5.
We could be expecting a lot, obviously. It has been slightly rusty for Jankum going in here. Going into this race, just trying to run everything to the best of his ability. But hopefully we can see what kind of show Jankum is able to put on.
So far, not as much, not as quickly spreading of the cars as I thought we would get. I thought we would get as caution comes out along the line. I believe it's for FM and maybe Girl Next Door, as they did seem a little bit slow.
Okay, so race control has called caution at the line. Now we're going to pull up the map, see if guys are going to slow down here at the line. And yes, caution is indeed out. First caution of the night coming on lap 4 of 38 laps tonight. Now, to some that might seem like a low lap count, but that is all mainly because it takes a long time to get around Hockenheim, especially on the full circuit. It takes roughly a minute 45 to get all the way around this track. So, wide sweeping lap times. Vanquish the pole sitter was running in the minute 40s, so obviously Vanquish, as we can expect, running a little bit faster lap times. MVP also in the faster bracket of 141s, and then Tython not too far behind him. Middle of the field, middle of the pack is where we're seeing mostly those 143s, 144s. So there's a lot that we can expect for more to come.
Yeah, and I'm already seeing strategies play of who's going to be cautious and who's not going to be. MVP is playing it very cautious. He has barely even touched his throttle throughout this lap. He is just holding down his clutch to save as much fuel as possible. So that's what your race leader's doing, as he's saving as physically much as possible. He's even getting pushes from Vanquish to make sure he's saving that little bit more. So MVP is going to try and extend his run as long as he physically can.
Yep, these guys, Vanquish, MVP, they typically go into the race with no strategy plan at all. They go in there, they just try to run the race as much as they can, and this is for sure the fun aspect that they enjoy of XRS. Speaking of fun, there's a lot of fun still to be left in store for you, the fans of XRS, being able to experience XRS as a whole. One, we have our Instagram for the latest up to news and updates. It has not been updated in a while. We will be able to update everything after this race. We've just been having some slight technical errors there. Twitch, all streams that are pretty much hosted by myself and AK together. We're able to go in here, broadcast for you live on Twitch every single Saturday night. And then we are also able to post a lot of highlights that don't get seen everywhere. A lot of highlights do not get seen everywhere, and you can see all highlights on Twitch. Full race replays on our YouTube channel. And then lastly, the last bit of fun that we have, we did start a TikTok page where we're going for viewerships and just having a fun, building a good community on there. So join in the fun, follow XRS all around. A couple cars made their way to pit road, passing that time. Very early pit stops. We could expect those drivers, probably the ones caught up in the actual event that brought out this first caution.
Yeah, and that's what most are, or some that are farther back are just going to get that little bit of a top up, just to try and get that little extra mile on everyone else, so that they can sort of assess what they need to do and what they're at with fuel, and later on in the race, and if they're going to try and go for a 2-stop strategy or a 3-stop.
2-3-step strategy. It's a short race, so we shouldn't expect to see many people make many green flag stops. In all reality, it's going to come down to, are you going to be able to take care of your car? If you can take care of your car will take care of you. And I can say for sure from past experience racing at Hockenheim in GT cars and LMP cars, that was for sure the case in those cars. A lot of people like to compare NASCAR stock cars to GT cars just because there are similar in some aspects, but still very different from others. That's just how unique NASCAR can actually get.
Yeah, I would say GT cars sort of have the horsepower of a NASCAR, but they have, obviously GT cars are a lot different aero package wise than from the NASCARs, and of course what circuits the GT cars race on versus the NASCARs as well is a huge difference.
Yep, very much a huge difference there. Now, I don't believe, AK, you have been told anything from race control saying that we will not go green this time?
Nope, I do believe we are going this time.
Alright, in fact, I believe they're doubling up here throughout the final few corners. Vanquish MVP, same as the start of the race, this time flipped grid order. Green flag, we're back underway. Now will Vanquish pull the dive bomb that MVP was able to do in the first lap? He tries it! They both run wide! They're side by side, heading down into turn 2.
They were 3 wide in, I believe, 10th through, 9th through 11th. They were 3 wide coming to turn number 2. Very risky, but everyone kept it straight to the there.
Vanquish able to clear MVP, but MVP right on the bumper for the hairpin. Vanquish defends low.
Who has the better throttle control for here and who can get the better line? And that was Vanquish.
Vanquish very much, but MVP not losing too much ground. As we said, the more you run this track, the more opportunities you get.
You can see
doing very good job right now. Yeah, just about to point out the same thing. Braking at different points, keeping your momentum. And look at the gap. The Vanquish and MVP has been able to form on third place, D-Dog. And now Tython going to the inside.
Oh, and off-roaded Carter off. Carter got to the back of off-road. It looked like he might have missed his braking zone or something.
Yep, off-road hype, off-track, off-pace. Kart racer as well.
Obviously no caution for that. There were not cars around, just cars off-track.
Now the top three full of interesting aspects. We're on board with Tython, last week's race winner. And like we pointed out earlier in the broadcast, Tython, he's been getting faster and faster every week. So here, could we expect to see him get faster and faster in the race? I know for sure that was the case for the Indy Road Course race that we were able to run. Vanquish even said in post-race that Tython improved a lot from his qualifying time the more laps that we ran. So I would say don't count out Tython here.
No, I would agree with that because we've seen Tython and other drivers like Tython come from 5th place, 6th place, even 7th place from a starting at the race to finishing in the top 3, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, even 4th or 5th is a huge improvement and really good pace showing. And like you said, we've seen Tython improving a lot lately. So I definitely would not count Tython out as of yet.
For sure, we cannot count him out. In reality, you can't count out anybody. The race is not over till it's over. A lot of things can happen, especially late race. Leaders can get tangled up in something, making it to where there's not that many laps left to recoup their positions.
Especially at Hockenheim, because it is such a narrow circuit through most of these sections that a small mistake can cost you big time. So, especially at this track, we can't really count anyone out of this race because all it takes is one mistake and your race could be over or it could improve somebody else's race.
Yeah, in reality, like we said, all the way really, there's 13 corners on this track, but in reality, after turn 5, the track gets really, really tight. Your only wide sweeping turn is turn 1. Because you have all that runoff that you're able to use to carry a lot of momentum heading into turn 2 and 3 area. So we keep saying about this a lot. Momentum, momentum, momentum. And that's, in reality, what you should be doing at a lot of road courses, but especially Hockenheim. Because of the fast, but also the compactness that you get in a few areas of this track.
We did have a record caution interval that was panned on the front straight. He does look to have damage, but he was past pit wall at the time, so he could go in and pit. And with the caution interval, he wasn't able to get a caution in.
So, just bad luck there.
Yeah,
bad luck, bad timing.
Poor timing to unfortunately spin on wreck. It also might be FM. I'd have to check damage as well. No, he did not. But Panda definitely is damaged in some way. His brakes look to be locking up fairly quickly. His suspension looks to be bouncing out around a lot more than everyone else's, and he seems to be having a lower acceleration than everyone else. So he definitely does have some sort of damage on that car.
Couple cars trying to fight it out together. JW Reno and RZX Cam fighting for 8th and 7th. They've been having a pretty good battle for a half lap here, but then also just the battle up ahead of them, 6th and 5th place, being Oracle and Hawk. Both of these guys, Oracle and Hawk, they are outside of the top 8 in the standings currently. Oracle being the closest, but just being 3 points behind Reno. But Hawk, he has quite a bit of gap to make up. I believe it's 15 points for him. We can double check here real quick. And yes, it is a 15-point margin that Hawk needs to make up on Reno. So with Reno only being a couple of spots behind Hawk, not the greatest of scenarios for them.
And obviously, there is another way to get into these playoffs, which Hawk has been oh so close to so many times, is filling out that 9th playoff driver, all the qualifications you need. And I'm pretty sure Hawk has completed all but one of them, if I'm not mistaken, which is getting the race win, which he has been so close to so many times. Obviously, 3 second places on the year, 2 third places, I think a 4th as well. And obviously, he did take a break recently. And last week, I do believe he got just outside of the top 5. So he has been very close very many times. I would say he's overdue for a race win. So, I mean, he definitely could get in another way. And I think a couple of these drivers could get in another way. But I think Hawk is the one that's closest to getting into that 9th playoff driver spot.
Well, the 9th wildcard spot does have a couple qualifications that you need to be able to hit. Hawk, in technicality, has only hit one of the qualifications out of the 3. Because we have only ran 11 races yet, and you need to have at least 10 starts. Hawk, he did take a break where he was gone for, I believe, a race or 2. So, there is that time frame that he still needs to make his 10 starts. He has stated that he should be able to compete for the rest of the season, if nothing else pops up. So, he should be able to hit the 10 race starts. He very much is hitting the one qualification that he has right now, is that you need to be at least inside the top 18 in points. So anywhere from 9th to 18th you need to be in, and then that final qualification you need to have a win. So very much as you pointed out, Hawk close a couple times. You're saying you feel as if he's overdue for a win. I would say for sure yes, but at the same time, last season he was already on a high note being the champion. So not much that you could really go forward to. And Reno actually off track. He's off track. He was able to recover. He did lose some ground, though, in his battle that he was having with Cam. Luckily, there was enough of the separation gap to where he only lost 1 spot to Culture.
Yeah, so now he'll just have to battle Culture now and try and get back up to Cam. As he
He got off track again.
Last corner.
Yeah. Reno very loose right now. Don't know if there's something off with the car that he's not feeling right now, or if he's actually struggling a little bit to wheel his way around the track.
Yeah, it could be just one of those laps where it's just the car's not really doing what you're wanting to do. You're sort of in between your tires being clean and your tires being sort of where you want to. So you could just be in that transition between the tires. But yeah, I mean, obviously only Reno knows the answer to that question.
Looks like right now he's able to hold off okay. But for sure, that final sector of that track probably overheated the tires a little bit after he went off track. And with how tight and how fast you're treating the tires right there in the final sector, in the stadium section of the track, probably made it to where he couldn't really cool off his tires until turn 1.
Caution is out again. Trying to figure out where it would be. What would be 4? I believe it might be for Cam. I'm not 100% sure. It looked like Cam might have just come back on course. It doesn't look like he has any damage, so maybe not Cam.
As of right now, FM, he is slow on track. He just lost a position to off-road.
Yep, that's who it would be. It would be FM.
Yep, FM Esports.
appears to be just a single car by the looks of it.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, this car looks to have taken a front left impact of sorts. Just looking at the car, his brakes are 100%, springs are 100%, and the front of the car, all those panels are 100%. The steering and drive line are also completely, utterly broken. So, if I had to assume, he has hit the front left side of his car, as the front right, at least the suspension and brakes look perfectly fine. Obviously, all the cars are gonna get caught up, and those that need to go in like FM will be going in. We could see some pit stops, but I don't think we'll see many if we do. Everyone's around halfway on their fuel, maybe a little above, a little below. So I don't expect many cars to come in. If we do see some, obviously FM will be a car that has to come in to repair damage. We might see a car or two follow him in just to top up on fuel.
When we'll watch and see here, we had a couple drivers go in for the first caution. And we will need to see if anybody else decides to go in. If the drivers who stayed out last time go in. Or even the cars that pitted last time.
Yeah, I'll say FM was one that went in.
Vanquish, he's looking like he's going in, yep.
Oh,
Vanquish, Titan, Hawk, Cam. Yeah, a lot of drivers going into pit road.
A couple surprises here. I figured that Titan and Vanquish especially would try and go with their fuel until it was practically gone, until they absolutely had to come in. As most of people's tires aren't too terrible right now, you're basically looking at fuel. So most of the field, at least I believe, was at around that 50% mark, in between that 45 and 60% mark, somewhere in between there. So that everyone on the field was looking pretty good.
Yeah. So the drivers that stayed out: MVP, D-Dog, Oracle, Culture, I believe, as well. All drivers that stayed out during this caution flag.
Yeah.
Now, you said, AK, that we could expect a 2 to 3 stop race. Now, with it being 2 to 3 stops, would that 2 stop considered what you so famously like to refer to as the Vegas strat? Or is it just more, you can make it, but only if you treat your tires right?
I mean, it could be either one of those options. Obviously, if you're not great at saving fuel, it will turn into the Vegas strat. But if you are good at saving fuel, like some of these drivers like Vanquish, MVP, Titan, Hawk, those guys, you could make it on a 2-stop, I do believe, with not much left, but enough where you could feel safe to push your car still.
Okay. Now, if you are in different driver scenarios, let's say you were somebody that is just looking to have a good run tonight, would you probably go with the 3-stop strategy? And then if you're someone just trying to look for a lot of luck, potentially the 2-stop?
I mean, it really depends on where you are in the points. People at the top that are in the playoffs, I'd say you probably are going to go for the 3-stop strategy if you're not on that cut line. Just because you know you're most likely at least safe for the time being, so you can take it easy, sort of, and you can just try and use your speed to get into those top 5s and get some points that way. But if you're below that cut line or trying to get close to that cut line, people like Oracle, Hawk, and a couple others like Ham, you might want to try that 2-stop strategy just to see, because yeah, it will be an all or nothing gamble, but if it does work out for you, you gain some major points using the 2 stops.
Rounding away around the final corner, MVP and D-Dog leading the field back to green. Green flag waves. Oracle tried the dive bomb there. Turn one car loose. Don't know if they actually spun.
He did keep it straight. It looked like Marino might have missed it and got into Hawk. But both cars obviously kept it straight.
A couple other drivers getting antsy in the back, going all the way. Edwards off track a little bit.
Yeah, it looked like Edwards might have gotten a little bit of help there. I didn't quite catch who had helped him, but it did look like he did get a little bit of help.
This is going to be close on the hairpin right here with Jankum. He gets into the back of off-road ever so slightly.
We were 3 wide with, I believe, 10th to 12th coming into that hairpin. They somehow made it work.
Well, by making it work, the bumper has a few more dents in it.
Yeah. Bumper and side panels might have a little some scuff marks on them, but they made it work.
So all the way 8th, really through the end of the pack, really at the tail end, all the way back to probably 14th. Those cars are kind of clustered together, and then ahead in 7th place is another tail end pack that is currently, I believe, being led by 2nd place, being D-Dog. So we have two sort of groups of drivers, while MVP takes advantage of all of this excitement.
Yeah, and in this, especially after these restarts, that's where you're going to get a lot of time, and Hawk is around off the bumper of Panda.
We were able to see that barely from the cam that we're spectating with Oracle and D-Dog and Vanquish. They were very rough side by side together. D-Dog went a little bit wide, and then Vanquish dove to the inside. So now it's Vanquish back to 2nd. D-Dog trying to gain more ground on the top 3.
Yeah, it just looked like Panda might have missed his braking zone by just a little bit and just tapped Hawk there, and that's why he went around. It does not sound like Hawk is too friendly right now with that.
Yeah, heading back through. Panda back in 13th, assuming that knocked Hawk all the way back to last in 17th. So if you're Hawk, that's for sure something I would be frustrated myself, because that's for sure something you do not want to have. But at the same time, we're not even halfway in this race. We're approaching the halfway mark soon, so there's still plenty of time to try and get yourself in a better position.
Yeah, and with the way with cautions are going right now, it seems every 7 or so, 8 or so laps, we're getting a caution. So if we do continue this trend, we should get at least a couple more cautions before the end, which should help Hawk a lot. So while there were some positions time loss, I feel like he'll either get that back up just because he's capable of getting that back up, or have a little assistance in some caution.
Currently riding along with RZX Cam in 6th, trying to make his way. He's going to dive in driver's right to the inside of Oracle, but Oracle going to have the advantage for that immediate left-hander coming out of turn 3. Turn 2 and 3, that is a tricky area of this track to pass, because turn 2 is very much a dive bombing opportunity. That's a longer straightaway in between turn 1 and 2. But after turn 2, you have the immediate left-hander. So, if anything, the driver who's not defending the inside has a little bit of a better advantage coming out of that area of the track. Oracle finally, after the hairpin, is able to get by.
Yeah, and we're seeing Cam desperately trying to get by here. He's done a lot of moves as he puts the bumper to the back of Oracle. I do think he missed his braking zone. I don't think that was intentional.
Yeah, I don't believe that was intentional either.
But also you can see that the car that is defending sort of gets a better drive off most of these corners. Obviously Cam dive bombing gets a better entry, but Oracle defending gets a better exit, which is the exit is better on Hockenheim than the entry. So I feel like that's why Cam might be struggling a little bit here to pass Oracle, and why Oracle might be having an easier time staying ahead of Cam is just he has the exit off the corner by defending. So he's just giving that momentum a little better than what Cam.
Oh, and he goes a little bit wide off the final corner. So any momentum that he had, he has for sure lost, and now he needs to regain that back.
Yeah, you can see Oracle could basically just go flat out there and get that massive arc. Well, Cam, well, he did go full out, did not get as big an arc as Oracle did. That's what the momentum's doing. It's giving you, as you go by every corner, as you go by, especially those fast corners, you get that little extra more boost. You get an extra mile an hour or two more than the guy behind you, which is what we just seen between Cam and Oracle.
Right now, riding along off-road, currently in the 9th spot. He has Jankum ahead, Girl Next Door, and Cart behind him. Not too far back, though, is JW Reno trying to make up more ground.
Yeah, obviously Reno, I do believe he was, early on he was tapped a little and got very loose and lost a lot of positions on that last restart. So he's just trying to build back up from that. So as he goes off course here, that's not going to help him in any which way. Like we said, small little mistake, especially in this area with how tight it is and all the sand traps around. Making a small mistake, like just barely overshooting the corner like Reno did, can cost you a lot of time.
Yep. Especially like you said with the stadium portion of this track. Let's go back up to Tyson, which it says Tyson's in second. Vanquish there, Tyson's there. Oh, MVP went to pit road. We didn't catch that. Yeah, I was curious. Where's MVP? Yeah. So MVP looks like he did went into pit road.
Caution is out.
Oh! Really now?
Yep.
Caution is called. And MVP just went into pit road. So was the caution for him, or did MVP just get really lucky right here?
I believe he got really lucky. I'm trying to figure out who the caution might be for.
We'll ride along with Vanquish here. We're going to see, of course, if everything adheres with race directors. Yeah, now Vanquish is in the final few corners.
It is for Cam.
RZX Cam, okay. Caution comes out for him.
It looks like
and
he is
at the line.
also taken a left front impact.
So a couple cars having trouble here.
Oh, and Girl Next Door appears to be spun by car unintentionally. Wait for Girl Next Door. That was in the last corner. Yeah, it does appear to be for Cam. It looks like he has taken, like FM, a front left side contact with something, and it's around the same spot that FM did it as well. So I wonder what's over there that these drivers are hitting that's causing that damage.
About what turn area of the track, or would you say this is happening at?
It's happening just before the stadium section.
Just before the stadium section, so would you say probably turn 6 area?
Probably somewhere around there, I would say.
Turn 5 is the hairpin, and the only way that I can see you getting some sort of left front impact damage in the hairpin is you literally cut it and you hit that inside wall.
Yeah, I would say it's
let's ride along here. Oh, off-road around. He accidentally got a little bit of a tap.
Between the stadium section and where everyone is now, or somewhere between this small stretch. And it's before they come through the last 3 corners. So somewhere in between there and
Right
here
here
is where
through
they're
this
getting this left front damage.
area. There is a tire barrier right here in the turn 7 area.
That, I think, might be our culprit.
There is that tire barrier, or this section you can run wide, and when you try to get back to the track, there's that little tire wall that sticks out a little bit on this straightaway.
I think one of those two is definitely where both FM and Cam have gotten their damage. I want to say, though, it would be the first one, because I do believe we noticed the damage a little late on both cars. So
Yeah.
I do believe it would be the first one, but obviously I can't 100% say for sure. But definitely somewhere along this track, our drivers are struggling somewhere. And then they're getting a lot of left front damage.
It might just be trying to get the most out of your lap, and everybody to pit road, at least for sure the top 8, 9 cars. 10 cars, more than that, are in the pit road.
Let's see here. That count.
Only 4 cars stayed out, to give you a reference.
Yeah. 12 cars have just gone into pit lane.
Yeah, a lot of drivers making their way into pit road. So, Panda, that moves him to the race lead.
Yeah, and
So,
MVP,
Panda first, kart racer, MVP, and Edwards.
And MVP, I think, is the luckiest out of everyone here because caution came out as he was exiting pits.
Yeah, right as he was exiting pit road. So MVP pretty much is still fully fueled up. He pretty much only raced for not even a full lap.
Yeah, it would have been just under a full lap, and even then, he was already in last place, and caution had already come. Oh, sorry, just under last place, and caution had already come out. So he really could have just coasted basically the entire track. We don't quite know what he did. I'm assuming he went a little faster than coasting.
This should be a little bit interesting to see how we are now seeing the different strategies come into play when the caution comes out and what time everyone decides to go in. So, it should be an interesting restart here. If you're just tuning in with us, this is race 11 of the XRS Cup Series. We're at Hockenheim Ring on the full circuit. This has been the 4th caution of the night.
Yeah, obviously a little more than what we usually see at these road courses,
a little more, yes.
Caution-wise. But obviously, like we said, it's a much tighter circuit than most circuits we go to, especially around that stadium area. So the cautions are sort of understood with some parts of this track being barely able to hold 2 car wide through their sections. So it does sort of make sense why we are seeing a little more cautions than what we're used to on.
I can assure you that a couple drivers in the field tonight, this is the first time that they are touching a NASCAR stock car at this track. A couple drivers probably have experience at this track, but not in these types of cars. A couple people making mistakes, a couple people learning as we go. And what could be the most interesting restart of the night. Kart Racer Panda lead the field. Back to green.
This is where a lot of guys are getting a lot of positions. They can play their cards right, and Cam gets loose off turn number 1 as we head down to turn number 2.
3 wide all the way, getting commotion down in turn 2 area. MVP and Vanquish making the dive bomb all the way through.
Yeah, we're getting to these closing laps, and we'll see what drivers are willing to do to get a couple more positions or even go for the win tonight.
MVP, Vanquish dives bomb inside on the hairpin. Kart Racer, he got tapped by D-Dog a little bit. A lot of cars tight. Right after the hairpin, a lot of cars getting into each other there.
Yeah, off-road one around up and down. And might have been I don't know if Cam was pushed or he missed a braking zone. He didn't really miss it by
Vanquish
too
getting
much.
aggressive on MVP. They're side by side. They're almost off the track. Now they're all on the runoff area on the straightaway. Now they're heading into the stadium section of the circuit.
If there's a place you don't want to be aggressive, it's here. As Panda goes off track, Hawk gives a bump to Oracle. That gives Oracle very loose, but he does keep on track, which is very good by Oracle.
Leaders having a good battle here for the final few corners. MVP being defensive. Vanquish trying to get on by.
Yeah, I believe we did a count just before the race between those top two drivers. I believe they both have, I believe, seven wins between the two of them.
MVP goes wide. Vanquish goes wider. Going to attempt a dive bomb again. Turn 2. But right when we said there's an immediate left-hander, MVP's in the better spot for that one. Oh, he loses momentum though. Down the straightaway. MVP, Vanquish. MVP's going to be defending the inside here for the hairpin. What move's going to be made here?
We've said the guy that defending usually gets the better runoff into the corners, and that's going to stick true by the looks of it.
Stick true for now, but very aggressive. Vanquish looked like he was going to dive to the right of MVP, but it was going to have a little right-hand kink. He attempts inside again. MVP putting himself in the better position here. Everyone goes wide. Giving Vanquish almost no room right there in the straightaway. He goes by.
That corner panel.
He goes on by, and while this is happening, look at third. Tython could get his way into the mix here.
Tython just silently moving up while these two battle. We've said he's very fast. Give him one opportunity. I think Tython can capitalize here.
And as we have seen, Tython has seemed to get faster and faster while the race moves on. And here, Tython, he did qualify third, but so far, this was not the distance that we saw in qualifying. He is gaining ever so slightly.
And he has more than enough time to be gaining ever so slightly to make a difference. Like we said, give him one chance.
Oh, off track he goes.
Off track a little. He does get it back on fairly quickly. But we can see Vanquish is starting to pull away. But I think, yet again, we give one more caution. I think Tython might be able to throw his hat into the ring between these two and try and get another win and go back-to-back weeks.
Now, MVP Vanquish, they're going to be duking it out first to second. Tython being an underdog waiting right there. Big separation, though, back all the way from Tython to Kart Racer. Kart Racer's kind of in his own little island. But then after that, for the top 5, Jankum is in 5th, D-Dog 6th, and Oracle 7th. They're all very close to each other. And then 8th place. Like I said earlier, JDMX Hawk, he has been able to get himself back into a position when he was in 17th earlier.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of these guys up here are somewhat noticeable. Like, we see them fairly often, besides obviously J Team, because he's sort of every other week almost. But like we said, J Team is fairly fast when he shows up, and like I said, I expect the top 5 out of him. So far, he's captured that, and though he isn't 6th place, 7th place, 8th place aren't that far behind him, he is still in that top 5. So they'll make him work for that top 5, but I do think he can try and pull top 5 but tonight as Oracle gets very loose.
Oh, Oracle trying to save it. He was drifting off of turn 1.
Great save by
But he
Oracle
will lose
there.
the spot. He will lose the spot, but what a great job on Oracle being able to keep that one.
And J.K. put the bumper to the back of D-Dog, I think unintentionally. So now D-Dog lost a lot of time as he went wide through that second corner.
Well, now that's going to give the chance for Hawk here, and Hawk actually is going to be in the better position here for the hairpin.
Mr. Consistency looking to continue right where he left off.
Well, he took a little bit of a break, so it could take a while before he can get back to that point.
Doing pretty good so far. He's up to 7th. More than enough time to gain a couple more spots.
And here, though, he needs to deal with Oracle, who's going to dive to the bottom of him.
I think that corner that they just went through is one of the only corners where I think the inside can get the preferred line, and actually the outside card is the preferred line. So your attacking card can have the better line if they play their cards right.
Jack or spades? Which one would you like for your cards to play?
I prefer clubs myself.
Wow. Okay. Currently lap 25 of 38 in this race. We just got back going after another caution in this race. Hockenheim so far has been proven to be one pretty interesting track. A lot of passing opportunities, a lot of close battles that we've had. How would you say we do a little run through the field?
Yeah, let's do it.
Right? You know how this works. We start all the way with the leader and make our way throughout the pack. If cars pass each other and all that, then we will get back to the order that we're trying to get in. But first place, Vanquish, the pole sitter, obviously a favorite at road courses, but he has been contested in this race by MVP and others off of the restarts, but we haven't had a long run yet. So is that the key that Vanquish needs to be able to come out on top? AK, do you got MVP?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, MVP is known to be extremely good on these road courses, and like you said, we haven't had a long run yet, and that's typically when we see Vanquish start to really show his expertise on the road courses is off these long runs. Like you said, off these shorter runs, we're seeing people like in second place and third place, MVP and Tython, start to capitalize on those short runs. Obviously, MVP, we've seen for, 5-6 laps be door-to-door with Vanquish, and then once a couple laps were up, we've seen MVP maybe make a slight mistake, go off course a little bit, and that's when Vanquish capitalized. So Vanquish definitely knows when and when not to push his car, but obviously, like we said, second place MVP, third place Tython.
And now moving over to Tython. Tython, winner of last week's race at Top Gear West Reverse. He's been showing to have a strong run today, and he's getting a little bit stronger and stronger towards the end of the race, as we are seeing in a pattern in Tython. So we will see if Tython, he just needs one more opportunity, and if he's able to get it, then for sure, do not count out the number 11 Mobile One Chevy. Moving on, Kart Racer in fourth.
Yeah, Kart Racer in fourth tonight. He's been a little quiet tonight, but he has slightly crept his way up to that fourth position. He's currently not very contested by anyone in front or behind of him. He's just been silently tracking down, counting down the laps till the end of this race. He does have a couple cars coming up on him, but I do think he should, as long as he keeps his pace and no cautions come out, he should be pretty well set for a fourth place finish. To Jakeem in fifth place.
Yep. Jankum, fifth place right now. He hasn't been able to race many times this season, but here making a brief return tonight. Jankum, as you have stated multiple times, he's a driver that we expect to be fast at a lot of places. He can be fast at Homestead, he can be fast on a road course, he can be fast at the super speedways, being Daytona. He's currently running in fifth, trying to hold off D-Dog and Hawk. As of right now, Jankum is in a pretty solid position to get his, I believe, his first top 5 of the season. But either way, very good run by him. D-Dog in sixth.
Obviously, D-Dog, like you said, is trying to chase down Jakeem, but also tried to defend against Hawk right now in seventh place. He's been around this area for most of the night. He was up and leading when most of the field went in. I believe 12 cars in total. He was leading and gave us his first green flag of the night. That was the latest caution, but since has fallen down to 6th place, but he is looking to try and challenge J-Team, like we said, for that 5th place tonight. We'll see what he can do later on tonight. Now we go back with the 7th JDM, or our Hawk.
And yes, JDMX Hawk are currently in a big blanket right now with 5th, 6th, and 7th. Good battles going on here. But Hawk had a bad luck moment in the middle of the race to where him Panda got a little bit together. He got shuffled all the way back to 17th. And now, being able to recoup, being able to refocus and regain spots, he's in 7th, trying to look for more. He's only a few spots away from hitting the top 5. And if for sure he can get there, that should help him bring his points up, especially the bigger of the gap that he would have to Reno, the driver that he's currently trying to beat, and kart racer to pit road. For now, as we move back to the driver behind Hawk, it is Oracle.
Obviously, with points, he is the closest one to the playoffs, being, I believe, only 3 points outside of that 8-car playoff field. So obviously tonight he is looking for a very strong run. Reno currently is who he is 3 points behind. So obviously he needs to be just a couple positions ahead of Reno, and he's doing just that tonight in, of course, like you said, 7th place. He's been fairly all over the place between 3rd and 7th. We've seen him in almost every position between there tonight. So obviously he's shown his momentum at times. So we'll see if he can, again, find that momentum and get a couple positions as he appears to be catching up to the pack ahead.
Now moving back, Reno being the driver behind. Reno, he hasn't really been that fast tonight. He has improved a lot, though, in his road course performances. Tonight he's been pretty much hovering just out inside and outside the top 10. Making a few mistakes every now and then. But Reno being on that cut line, this is for sure not the greatest race that he would love to have. But hopefully, for sure, he can have more momentum that he can try to give himself that one little push that he can get himself where we go to next week. And next week we go to Le Mans, which will be a very, very interesting track.
Moving on now to 9th place, which is Cam. He was one of the reasons for one of the cautions tonight. I believe it was for the latest caution. Obviously got some left front damage early on in this race, but has since rebounded just a little bit. He's moved up to 9th place now after that incident. He's not really by anyone currently besides behind him in Culture, but there's still a fair gap between him and there's no one really up in front of him. So right now, he's just trying to gain some momentum and try and catch the guys ahead of him and maybe have to hold off Culture in a little bit.
Speaking of, let's go to Culture. Running in 10th spot. Culture, he's been back and forth in terms of where he's been tonight. He hasn't been for sure one of the fastest drivers tonight, but he's just trying to run a race that is consistent. As now off-road, makes a move in the inside of the hairpin, but it does look like Culture's able to drive off from that. And Culture, he's just mainly looking to have consistent finishes for himself so then he can stay safely in the playoffs. But obviously he would love to get a top 3 so then he can get some playoff points to rack up for himself. And now off-road actually overtook Culture in a very weird area.
It's a little weird as Culture goes off.
Oh, yeah, he's off track.
But speaking of off-road, we'll go to who is now in 10th place.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, he is a car that needs full of good finishes in the next couple of weeks to make these playoffs. Currently, just a couple points outside of the playoffs, obviously. Reno with 295, off-road with 242, so a couple of good finishes, and you could try and get into those playoffs. Currently, obviously, off-road is in 13th in the playoffs. He needs to get up to 8th position. So a couple of people ahead of him, and of course, fairly big point gap. So a couple good finishes is what off-road needs tonight. But obviously, a 10th place may not qualify as the position he wants or needs tonight to try and advance into the playoffs.
Moving further, that was behind Culture, we go to Goosey. Goosey was having a couple of problems in practice and qualifying. So just really trying to have a consistent run. Not much more can be said with him.
Obviously, moving back, we do see a familiar figure, which I do think, which is Cart, which I think Cart has pitted. That's why
Yep,
he is in
Kurt
13th.
went to pit
So
road.
we will be skipping over 13th, going to 14th, which is obviously FM Esports. Obviously, FM has been fairly quiet tonight. He did bring out a caution early on, again with the left front damage, which we would suspect is just before the stadium part of this track. Is where these drivers are getting that left front damage. But obviously, he was a reason for one of the cautions tonight. But he's sort of been quiet, just sort of sitting back here in 14th, 15th position, just sort of winding down the laps until the finish.
Just tying the run his race and have some fun. Back with him, AUG Edwards. We've seen him make a couple mistakes tonight, go off the course a little bit. So for sure not his night. But Edwards, we can for sure expect to see him in the ovals in the late part of the season. Be for sure a good mid-pack contender and just someone just trying to get a good finish. Back with Panda, 16th.
Obviously, that needs a good finish here tonight is Panda. Obviously, he is just above that cut line. He's not as close to that cut line as Reno. He is at 304. He is the 7th in the point standings. Was a little part of a little bit of controversy early on. Him and Hawk got a little bit together early on in this race. Hawk wasn't too happy about it by the sounds of it. So we'll have to see if anything does inspire from it, which I don't think will, besides maybe a submit clip later tonight. But obviously he was involved in that, and I do believe he was also a part of a caution that came out. He did get some damage from an unknown reason. We do believe he hit something off the front stretch. So obviously that was early on in this race, so he has since fallen back due to either pit stops or just unfortunately losing some momentum. But we'll go back to our last place, Girl Next Door in 17th.
And Girl Next Door really hasn't been anywhere near the front of the field for this race at all, and just looking for a race to run. Just looking for it to trickle down the laps, being able to have a little bit of fun while you can. And when it's not your race, it's not your race. It's for sure something that is pretty tough to deal with, but important thing is just to keep your head up high.
That's all you can ask for in race control is just total of the drivers. Lap 34 is caution cutoff, so 2 more laps until no more cautions are allowed.
And we will head on board with Vanquish, who is currently making his way around a couple lap traffic cars. But now, with the long run ensuing, now we see Vanquish's dominance come into play, with him having a 7-second gap to MVP. So unless something major happens, if a caution happens here, that for sure changes the estimated predicted outcome.
Yeah, and most of this field right now is perfect on fuel. They'll be able to go all the way to the end without any problems. So no fuel won't come into play here, unlike some past road courses. So now it's just going to be coming down to if anyone can chase Vanquish down, which is a 7-second gap and with 9 laps to go.
So very much that is going to be highly unlikely unless Vanquish makes a major mistake. And if he's unable to perform well and get off in his way,
Obviously, 1 more lap to go before caution cutoff is enabled, which basically means no more cautions are allowed to come out. So 1 lap before that happens, so it'd be very unfortunate for Vanquish if a caution were to come out now.
sorry for the little technical hiccup that I ended up having there. Yeah, not a lot of time left. Like they said, lap 34, I believe race
Yep.
control said. So, yeah, lap 33, we're already past halfway in the lap, and we will be approaching we're riding along with Vanquish. We will see when he crosses the line, and obviously we are waiting for race control to see if anything else is going to happen here on track. So, as long as Vanquish can make it through these final a few turns to make it to the cutoff, we should be green to the end.
Yeah, which is obviously what Vanquish wants to see. I think he understands that he is fast on these long green flag runs, and while MVP and Tython are much faster on those sort of shorter runs. Obviously, if we would have gotten a caution, obviously the caution are now off officially. If we would have gotten that caution, that would have heavily benefited not only MVP but as well as Tython.
Of course, yes, that would have very heavily benefited a handful of drivers that we saw make a lot of moves tonight. MVP, like you said, door to door with Vanquish earlier. Tython just sitting in the crow's nest waiting for a mistake to be made. But also D-Dog. D-Dog has been very aggressive off the restarts in trying to take advantage of dive bombing, getting ahead, and being the defender to get himself
Yeah,
into a position.
yeah. There are a couple more drivers. Cart and D-Dog have been sort of quieter up front the whole day. They've run top fives partly through the day. It's sort of an on and off between that top five area, and they've been relatively quiet. But yeah, like you said, they've been fairly fast off these restarts. But unfortunately, like you said, caution cutoffs are now enabled. Like before, no more cautions can come out. So if you spin, if you wreck, that sucks. But unfortunately, we can't. Nothing can be done about it. You can go on pit, or you can just try and finish it.
It looks like Jenkum still sitting in 6th as we go back. He was having a very good battle with Oracle, but Oracle starting to slip a little bit as we were approaching Sector 3 of this track. And Hawk, he's been able to get himself to 5th. And that puts him a few positions. Yeah, Reno's in 8th, so for sure that's going to help him get a couple more points to shorten that gap between him and Reno. And the points are going to be really close now between Reno and Oracle. There's only 3 points separating them, and they're only 1 point apart from each other.
Yeah, and as well as Hawk. Hawk will close this up a fair bit, especially if he can pass D-Dog. D-Dog is just in front of Hawk, so Hawk also looking to get another position, which looks like he might try and do right now, actually, as he looks to the inside.
Yep, he's going to try right here.
Like we said.
And this will help Hawk in a lot of ways if he's able to get around him here. D-Dog typically has that advantage, but they did get together a little bit there, and Hawk is able to clear him. The top 5 do get a little bit more points than the rest of the field because obviously there's a 5-point separation between 1st and 2nd in the point standing, so the closer you are passing each other in the top 5, the bigger the point separation is compared if you were 5th, 6th, and on back.
And realistically, this is the highest position Hawk can get, unless of course Tython, MVP, or Vanquish make a massive mistake. This is realistically the highest Hawk can go, or D-Dog can go. So obviously they're going to be battling fairly hard for this position, knowing that this is at most they can go.
Yep. And now Panda, the lap car, almost contested Hawk a little bit as if it was for position. Let's hope nothing rough happens here. Panda caught up in a controversy earlier, and also just last week, coming off of a penalty. He got a 10-point penalty for over-aggressive driving.
Yeah, if I'm Panda, I would have been driving Hawk a lot more friendly, knowing what had happened before. Obviously, Panda doesn't have much to lose right now in this race, but you definitely don't want to be on Hawk's bad side for when you do have a lot to lose, because obviously, like they say, NASCAR drivers have a long memory. So
Yeah,
It would,
very much.
I would say it would have been in Panda's best interest to maybe race just a little friendly and sort of give him and D-Dog the pass.
Yeah, he's already a lap down. There's a quite bit of separation between the 3 cars who are a lap down right now. So it's not like, I believe the car that would have been behind him was Girl Next Door. It's not like Girl Next Door was right there and trying to hold off, because then they would have been fighting, yes, a lap down, but they also would have been fighting for position, so they couldn't just get out of the way. But not the case right there. Now, Vanquish, 2 laps to go.
Yeah, Vanquish looks to add another win onto his resume and championship run. Obviously, I believe this would be his 4th race win of the season if he does get it, of course. But I mean, at this point, I'm not going to say set in stone because obviously anything can happen. But as long as Vanquish doesn't make a giant mistake, I do think he can. I think he will win.
And now the interesting part of Vanquish and MVP finishing 1-2 right here. This will make it to where they are tied in playoff points. They will have the same amount of playoff points at 17 apiece. So the closer and closer they get on the playoff scale, one, obviously the more points that you rack up, the more points that you will have for the start of the playoffs. But then the deeper you go into the playoffs, you're going to realize that those points can really have a huge impact at the elimination race being the 4th race of the playoffs.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure between MVP and Vanquish, as long as Vanquish wins this race, or MVP wins it, I believe they have 8 race wins between the 2 of them in so far 11 races.
Yep, and for sure we can head back here to where Vanquish, he won Mugello. MVP has won Brands Hatch, Sonoma. Then Vanquish went back to victory lane at Monza. Then Nürburgring, the Nürburgring GP, USA MVP won that one. Indy Oval went to Vanquish. Indy Grand Prix went to Vanquish. Then this last week at Top Gear, that went to Tython.
Yeah. So I believe, if my math is correct, that's 4 apiece and 8 in total between MVP and Vanquish.
It will be 8 in total between the Goosey.
That's definitely one way to get out of the way of the lead on your last car.
That is for sure one way to get out of the way.
I mean, obviously,
yeah,
I think Goosey realizes he doesn't have anything to lose, so he might as well have fun with it now, and he's going to get out of the way.
Well, he got some funny stream time there. He got some funny stream time there. After this straightaway, Vanquish, he's on the last lap of the race and heading into this final sector. Really, it could have been anybody's race today, but for sure Vanquish showed that he was the stronger the longer the run here got towards the end. And now, just a few more corners, Vanquish will see victory lane once more. And on the front stretch he comes. Vanquish, go ahead, celebrate a little bit. Vanquish heads to victory lane once more here in race 11. And this will actually be, I believe, his 5th victory. Because he won Mugello, Monza, Indy Oval, Indy Grand Prix, and now he wins at Hockenheim. So yes, his 5th win on the season. MVP 2nd, Tython in 3rd.
Which would actually, I believe, bring that total to 9 wins between MVP.
No, it would still be 8 wins.
I thought MVP had. Well, my bad.
Yeah, no, it would still be 8 wins. The separation is just 5-3. Then Hawk, D-Dog finishing off the top 5. Oracle looking like 6th, Jenkins 7th, Reno 8th. Now off-road, crossing the line now in 9th, and then Cam for 10th.
Obviously, a fairly good race here tonight. Not too many cautions, not too few where it was just a long green flag run. Uh, and a lot of great battling here tonight at Hockenheim. Should for a lot of great a lot of great racing and showing the skill level of a lot of drivers here tonight.
For sure, showing a lot of skill tonight indeed. We're going to try and get the winners in here. We're going to see if, of course, all three. With Tyson finishing 3rd, most likely he will decline the interview. Try to get for sure at least 1st and 2nd place. Yeah, we for sure figured that Tyson was not gonna hop in, but at least we can get 1st and 2nd.
Yep.
Make sure your mics are all connected, and let's get rolling with this.
Yep. Mortal enemy number 1 over here still wants to be a pain in my butt, as he said last week. We ain't friends on the track.
Alright, MVP, it for sure looked like that you had a little bit more short run speed compared to long run speed. I know you've said in the past Vanquish is on another level, but for sure it looked like you took advantage. I mean, you took advantage right at the very start of the race. You dive bombed turn 1 to try and get that early lead. Would you say you were just trying to be aggressive enough to put yourself in a more defensive position all race long?
Well, I'll be honest, that was probably the best start I could have gotten, because, let's be honest, you look at most starts or restarts, the person who starts 2nd hasn't been able to judge the leader's timing, and I actually timed it pretty well, where I never let him get cleared, and then he just sort of gave me the spot and won. But it was a decent race. It was not as exciting up front because, I mean, I'm sorry, there wasn't much that happened. I was telling everyone else that it was probably going to be more exciting watching the people that either missed qualifying or dirtied their laps in qualifying were going to make their way through the field.
Well, for sure, it looked like there was a couple of intense moments there in the race of a couple good battles here, side by side, but you were able to hold your own there. But now, not sure if this would be the best news that you would love to hear. You and Vanquish are now tied for playoff points at 17 each after this race.
Yep, I saw that one coming.
So now with you two being in a tie for playoff points, it's going to be quite interesting these next few weeks as we try to hit into the home stretch to the playoffs.
Yeah. let's see if Tommy shows up and all that, and it'll be fun. Just not him running a second or more quicker than the field.
Well, for sure, good luck to you for being able to get more podiums and potentially more victories for sure for the rest of this season.
Yeah, I'll unfortunately do this to Hodge. Sorry, you're no longer Mr. Consistency. I am Bud.
I got a comment on the one thing you said there, Finn, is it kind of reminds me of Carl Edward and Jimmy Johnson during a specific season when Carl Edwards wins and Jimmy Johnson finishes behind him. In a post-race interview, ruins Carl Edwards' excitement when he realizes Jimmy Johnson's finished behind him. It just reminds me of that with what you just said to MVP. But we'll get to Vanquish, obviously the winner of tonight's race. Through the second half, he pretty much led the entire second half for the most part. So obviously we'll start off with that second half. Obviously it looked like you sort of figured out the track to another degree in that sort of second half. The first half it seemed Tython and MVP sort of could keep track and keep with you and at some moments pass you. But after the third about the third caution, it looked like you figured something out on the track. Was there something that you either figured out on the track, and if so, what was it?
Yeah, just use more of it. I wasn't using as much as they were at the beginning there. I didn't really pay attention to how much we could. So I usually just follow people around, see what the rules are, and then adapt and progress.
Obviously, it did, like we said
Well, dang,
before.
you adapted pretty quickly.
He usually does.
Like we said
unfortunately.
Like we said before, MVP and Tython looked like they might have had a shot tonight, and it looked like they have a shot through most of the race. If any of one of you three made a mistake, it looked like the other one might have capitalized. But with that being said, now you overtake MVP in wins through the season, now at 5, and also boost yourself in the point standings a fair bit. And like MVP said, as well as the points themselves, you also gained and now tied MVP with playoff points. So what's your version on that?
I'm here to have fun, but I'm also here to win. That's as simple as it is.
I hope you're achieving both. You feel like you're achieving both?
I have so far. Yeah.
Okay. That's all we
far.
need to hear. All we need to hear.
So you
Obviously,
can,
if you're winning, you're having fun.
Yeah, it's the best kind of fun.
oh,
Well-
don't worry. I'll switch that one day.
I mean, I just seemed to switch it before you, so.
I'll get there. Don't worry.
Yep.
Hey, give him credit. He came in the podium, okay? We interview him almost every week, okay? Give him some slack here.
Anyways, as always, Vanquish, of course, congratulations on your win tonight. Obviously, a fairly well-deserved win. Obviously, you did get challenged by MVP through the first and middle parts of that race, but near the later parts, you obviously came out on top. Like always, congratulations on the win, and good luck coming into next week.
Thank you.
Back to you, Fan.
Yep, and that will conclude tonight's broadcast here at Hockenheim for Race 11 of the XRS season. And AK, thank you for joining me here once again. This is our first race of 2023, in my absence last week at Top Gear. And so we for sure couldn't quite accurately predict tonight's race. First we were thinking it would be any other typical road course race to where we're probably only going to see 1-2 yellows come out and longer runs, but for sure that was not the case in the first and middle parts of the race, as you stated earlier.
Yeah, and I think that was to do with this being a much more narrow track, especially through that stadium section, is it can barely fit 2 wide, so if you even attempt to go 3 wide, somebody's going to go off into a sand trap, somebody's going to go off into a tire barrier, and there were a couple more hidden tire barriers or tire barriers that stuck out that we believe that some drivers had some problems with, and that's what was a main reason for a lot of cautions, and obviously the tighter sections of the track being the main reason for a lot of cars going off track. But like you said, obviously some unexpected, but also some expected. Me and you both said at the beginning of the race, the top three we had in mind were Tython, MVP, and Vanquish, and those were your top three. Maybe not in the order that we expected or thought, but those were our top three, and those were some drivers that we said that we should be looking out for tonight. So obviously some expected and some unexpected tonight.
Now, I am very positive that we are not going to be able to predict next weekend, which is Le Mans. So, I very much think we will not be able to predict how that race will go, and we'll just need to wait and see. Thank you to anybody who watched this live stream, and anyone who's going to watch this when this gets uploaded to YouTube. Fan2403, AKDJ 2006 for XRS. Everyone, have a great rest of your evening.